Well, everyone, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. My friends, Let Them Lead is an unexpected lesson in leadership from America's worst high school hockey team. I'm holding up the book for you. The author is my guest today. His name is John U. Bacon. Now, for those of you that don't know who this incredible man is, you're in for a real treat, honestly. But John he's a New York Times bestselling author, Wall Street Journal bestselling author. He's written so many books. He is nearly 3 decades as a writer, which is pretty incredible. He's also a very popular public speaker. He's got a new book, which is coming out on September 7th, I believe, which is the title that I mentioned just a moment ago, Let Them Lead, Unexpected Lessons in Leadership from America's Worst High School Hockey Team. John, I could go on and on and on about your amazing achievements, but can I just welcome you so much to the Storybox podcast today, my friend?
That works just fine, Jay. Thank you very much. Good to be talking to my buddy down under. We're on the exact opposite side of the world right now.
Well, it's great to be connecting with you. I believe you're in a cottage all the way over in Michigan. That's honestly incredible.
I'm in northern Michigan right now. My wife's putting my son to bed. So where I'd normally be in either the little office or the front room, they're all taken. So here I am. And I think this couch, we bought it like a month ago. It's the previous owner's grandmother's makeup room. So how you doing, Jay?
Well, there you go. Doesn't matter where you do the interview.
Make it happen, man. Make it happen.
Yeah, that's it, right? That's it. But it's honestly a real pleasure and an honor to be speaking with yourself today. And I've been looking forward to this conversation ever since I found out about the fact that we would be connecting today and speaking about it. Leadership is a topic and one of my favorite conversations, honestly, to have with people. And I think you're one of the experts about it. Firstly, my very first question, I should say to you is, what does success look like for you?
That's a great question. And in the first few pages of the book, I tackled the simple fact that I could not, and in business, they so often ask for this, okay, what are the metrics necessary to say that you've succeeded? What does the plan look like? Blah, 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 blah. And I admitted right out, I cannot tell you how many wins this high school hockey team would have to have for me to be successful. How many all-state players, how many playoff victories, how many rivals we had to beat, and blah, blah, blah. But I did know, and this is what I think works in business also, the people I know in business, academia, nonprofits, medicine, and so on, who really, and I'm including you in this too, Jay, you got a following, obviously, but the people who really succeed don't necessarily put a number to it. It's like, I know what it's going to look like, and I know what it's going to feel like. And when I get there, we'll have done it. And what I wanted was a team that was confident, well-prepared, hardworking, but truly cohesive, that punched above its weight class, if you will, that beat teams that shouldn't beat. And, and footy down there and everything else, what that looks like. Go Collingwood, by the way. How about that one? But anyway, working class. How about that? But that's what I wanted. I wanted a family feeling. And if we got that going, then the rest will be details. We use these numbers to get where we're going, but it could never be the means in itself. What I definitely did not want is to lead a win at all cost program. Because my point about that is, if you're doing a business like that or anything else, or your team, your class, it's win at all costs. If you lose, what do you have? And the answer is nothing. So you have to be able to play the game and pursue your work in a way that even if you come short once in a while, you can still walk out of there with your head held high, knowing that you followed your principles and you stuck together, and it's still worth doing. So success for me was the feeling that we have an indestructible team that will win more games than it should. And you don't want to play us. That's what I wanted.
This is a story literally of true underdogs. And
to say the least.
To say the least, yeah, the worst hockey team that literally beat people that they should never have beaten. And I love underdog stories. Honestly, they're so inspirational, and it kind of got me motivated to just not give up in my own life. And leadership, or being able to coach these young kids to actually win. What do you think it actually takes to win? Not just a game, but honestly, life in general.
As corny as it sounds, Jay, you have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in each other. And that's very simple, but it's hard to do. The team I took over, a little background here for your viewers. The team I took over is Ann Arbor, Michigan. Huron High School. And I realize in Australia and in Europe, of course, high school sports are not a big deal, but they're a very big deal here in the United States. So think of your top travel team in soccer, it's the same idea, basically. Yeah. This team in 2000 that I took it over, their record was 0-22-3. And for you non-sports fans out there, the 0 is where the wins go. So that's not very good. And there's some website called usahockey.com that ranks all the teams around the nation, which is crazy. We don't play all the teams around the nation, let alone our own state. But they ranked them all. And out of almost 1,000 teams, Ann Arbor Huron ranked dead last. Now, this is a point of pride with me. They had teams from California ahead of us. Like, hey, man, we have snow and ice here. This is what we do. And they got the surfer boys were ahead of us. This is rather insulting, to say the least. And then what happens next, Jay? They hire yours truly, who happens to be the worst player in school history. This is not false modesty. I can prove this empirically. I still hold the record all these years later for the most games in a Huron uniform. 86. I played on the team for 3 straight years. Never missed a game. Always dressed, always played. And the fewest goals, 0. That's very hard to do. And yeah, I played forward, by the way. So this is really not, this is not good. So the coach with no goals is going to lead the team with no wins. Worst in America. So yeah, this is the combination we need. So what do? You seek out mentors. And I sought out a lot of mentors. Know what you don't know. Get all the help you can. Swallow your pride. As my father said when I took over the team, well, John, when you're on the floor, you cannot fall out of bed. Well, thanks, Dad. That's not exactly a motivational speech. But when I asked Al Clark, my mentor at Culver Academies in Indiana, he's been the nation's best coach for a number of years. I coached with him for a little while. And I said, okay, what do I do? And he said, you have to make it special to play for Huron. And the best way to make it special is to make it hard. And that was the exact opposite advice that everybody else was telling me about how this generation is soft, they're lazy, they're selfish, blah, 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 blah. This team in particular, 0-22-3. And he's saying the opposite. Forget all the fancy sweatsuits and the cool buses and all this. No. 1 week after school gets out, get in the weight room, get on the track, and see who wants it and keep going and go with them. And he was right. We did that instead. And I expected at least half these guys to quit because this is the least motivated team in America, right? Not one player quit. And we all threw up on the track at some point or other. I did too. So did our assistant coach, Mike Lappridge, the hero of the story in many ways. And by the end of the summer, we were a different team. We hadn't won a game yet. But on one famous day here in Michigan, it's raining cats and dogs in the summer. Then the sun comes out, it's 92 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 30, 31, I think, Celsius. A hot day, hotter than hell. Steam starts coming up off the track. And we have our football goalpost at the end of the track. And I said, gentlemen, can you see the goalposts? And you can't. The air is wiggly. It's so damn hot. And I know it gets that hot in the outback and so on in Australia. It's one of those kind of days. And I said, no, we can't say that. I said, that's right. It's the hottest damn day of the year. It's the hottest hour of the hottest day. And we are lucky to be here at this moment. So now we're going to prove how tough we are. When I don't see our opponents out here, I don't see the rivals out here, I see us out here. And we're going to set every record we have. We're not going to complain about this. The toughest guys in the world, the Navy SEALs and so on, those guys, they don't complain about the weather. They brag about it. And they said, yeah. But one kid, a sophomore, one of the younger players, he grumbled something. And then my captain, Mike Henry's, one of the heroes of the book also, phenomenal captain. He turns to the kid and says, hey, you play for Huron and it's harder over here. And I said, yes, that's it. We embrace the hard. That's what we brag about. Yeah, it's hard. Of course it's hard. Let's make it a little harder. And before we played a game, we were already a different team. And I thank the captains for that.
Mm. Well, I was smiling the entire time you were sharing that because it's an amazing story. And one thing I want to give my audience a little bit of context first before we dive even further in is why in the world did you decide to take this job in the first place? And secondly, why did they offer it to you?
Two good questions without good answers, but I'll do my best. Jay, you're asking all the right questions. It made no sense for me to want to do this. In the United States at a high school level, you get paid $5,000, which is not much. You should make that in a month on a normal job, basically. But I was making about that for $5,000 a month for the whole year, for 4-month season. But you got to work with these guys all summer and all fall. You get paid nothing for that. There's no prestige that attaches to it. The three previous coaches had all been fired. It's a graveyard of coaches. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and parents and sending you emails. Have the Ann Arbor News. You get blown up on the paper. There are a lot of reasons not to do this, and almost no reason to do it. But due to my unsatisfying high school hockey career, I wanted them to have what I didn't. I wanted them to have this sense of unity, this sense of purpose, this sense of belonging. I wanted to save the program because they're talking about killing it and with no wins in a year and a half. And I wanted them to have an experience they would remember the rest of their lives. Earlier you asked, what is success? That's really it. And I knew that our team ending banquet at the end of each year, the seniors during their speeches were not crying, then I had blown it. That's my final exam, not the playoffs. I want to win. I expect to turn it around. I'm competitive, all those things. Guilty as charged. But the senior banquet, you want to know what success looks like? If they're not doing this, their final words, then we blew it. So that's why I wanted to do it. Why did they want me to do it? They didn't. It came down to me and another candidate with more experience. I'd never been a head coach before. I never, not in hockey. It came down to a final vote of the 6-person panel, 4 votes for that candidate and 2 for me. Now, your math is correct. Same math in Australia as we have here. 4, you lose, right? But the two guys voting for me, one parent who knew me and the trainer of the team, which here is an athletic trainer, tapes you up, not the team coach. They would not take no for an answer. So they just kept hammering the 4 people until finally one of them flipped their vote. So it's a 3-3 tie. And the principal, who knew very little about me and even less about hockey, he picked me, Lord knows why, probably because I went to the high school. So they picked me. And when they picked me, who voted against me? The other parent, the athletic director's secretary, the captain of the team, who's Mike Henry, whom I love the guy. We're now great friends. But he had voted against me as well. The parents were quite ticked off that somebody like me got the job. So I'm going into this with not many friends.
And how did that make you feel? Like you don't really have that much support going behind you going into this new job. I mean, it's $5,000 for everything. You don't really I personally, nah.
Well, you're smart, Jay. I can't blame you.
What kept you there though? Was it because you wanted to give these kids something that you didn't have, or was there something deeper in there for you? Because you went into this without any really much support at all. So what kept you there that whole time?
Great questions, Jay. Really great questions. You're not even half my age and you're doing a phenomenal job. I've been interviewed by a lot of folks, so you're doing a great job. And you're making me think too, damn it. I've already written the book, so I should know these answers pretty readily. But we're going to be on the surface here. I would say a few things. One, not much support initially, basically none going in. Not from the players, not from the parents, not really anybody. But once we started meeting 3 days a week, every week for workouts, and I knew their names like that, and I'm working as hard as they are. For a team that had basically been forgotten, for players who felt like losers, who'd been called losers around the school and elsewhere, to have somebody who believes in you, who's driving you, and who tells you in day one that you are going to be the hardest working high school hockey team in the state of Michigan. And then we were. And that one day, not this year, but one day we are going to win a state title. And I believed it. That's kind of crazy. And this is where I think your generation gets a bad rap. It's not pay and promotions that drive you guys, I think. And so people say, oh, they're lazy. No, you're not. You're just motivated by different things. These guys expect a calling. They expect a sense of mission, a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging that most jobs, frankly, don't provide. Well, if all you're offering is a paycheck and somebody offers more, they're going to leave. So you better offer more than that. If you want real loyalty, you better be loyal to them and engage them right away. And I knew them right away and I cared about them. And we had great assistant coaches, including Mike Lappridge, I mentioned. We had 4 or 5 guys. Man, these guys had played in Sweden. They played top level university hockey in the United States. They're all better players than I was. Chapter 4 is called Make Sure You're the Dumbest Guy in the Room. Yeah. And I was. The coach's room, it wasn't even close. Know what you don't know. And Warren Buffett, the famous billionaire, said that if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I lived that. So these guys came down at first as a favor to me, but they stayed, to answer your other question. They stayed because the players were so compelling. These were amazing guys. They'd been dumped on by everybody. They didn't have any confidence. But they were wonderful guys, wonderful kids. And now they're adults. They're 35 or so. And now we're great friends. But that's what draws you down. So that's what keeps you going. And when you start to see progress, you start to see, some confidence build. There's nothing more intoxicating than that. And as much as I would have liked to have scored a goal myself during my 86 games in 3 years on the damn team. And by the way, it actually is a family record for not scoring a goal. My brother shares it with me. He played it here and also. But it must be, he likes to point out that he played goalie. But hey, Jay, we all got excuses, man. We all got excuses. So
that's right.
So anyway, as much as I would have loved to have scored a goal in my 3 years, and yes, I do think about that once in a while, when one of your players scores their first goal, and I made a big deal out of it, we'd save the puck, we'd write on the puck, we'd have a ceremony afterwards. Every player on our team, I made sure, scored a goal before they graduated. And we put out, the 2 stars with, player hadn't scored in the last 3 seconds of his career. There's a story about that in the book. That stuff feels wonderful. So what I would have liked for myself, it was so much better to see it for them. Mm-hmm. And why was I so drawn to this? I was 35 years old. I'd put in 4 very good years at the Detroit News, which is then the 6th or 7th biggest paper in the United States. Writing sports features, covering the Nagano Olympics in Japan, covering the World Cup in Japan also in 2000, I think it was. So yeah, having a great time and all this. But everything I was doing was about myself. I was still single, no kids. There's an old rock and roll song by the group called Yes. Don't surround yourself with yourself. And I kind of felt that I'd done that. I needed more. So in a real sense, this was a need for me, not just them. And we fulfilled it with each other. It was an experience to remember.
I want to come back to the culture in just a moment, but I want to sort of ask you about your most vulnerable moment in your life. Was it actually being the coach for this team, or was there something else in your life that sort of was more vulnerable than this?
Great question. I'd start with 8th grade, because who the hell is not vulnerable in 8th grade? A little rockier for me than most, perhaps, but I got it sorted out eventually. The most vulnerable, it probably was coaching this team, actually. When it's at the Detroit News, you're still a little scared, and your work is out there, and people can send you nasty letters, and it's a public performance, as you know from your podcast. I mean, anybody can get on Twitter now, and back then anyone can write you a letter.
There's no hiding.
There's no hiding. But this was more vulnerable because I was doing this in front of everybody I knew in town I grew up in. They already knew that I'd not been a good high school player. I'd gotten better as a beer league player as an adult. But to fail at that publicly, it would have hurt a lot more than to fail at the Detroit News, for example. And if you fail here, it's not just you. You bring down 30 players with you. You bring down your school with you. And one of my teacher friends joked that there are only 2 high schools in town. When you beat Pioneer, which is where Ken Burns, the documentary filmmaker, went, Bob Seger, the rock and roller you might have heard of, and Iggy Pop, how about that one? I went to their school, and nobody went to my school. So if you beat Pioneer, you're on the front page of the Ann Arbor News, and what a big deal that is. I go, yeah. If we lose to Pioneer, we're also on the front page of the Ann Arbor News and get hammered accordingly. And you walk around the street for a month and you get ripped. I mean, soccer fans, footy fans in Australia, I know are like that. So as far as being vulnerable goes, I was more exposed to criticism that would really hurt me in this job than I ever was as a reporter, which is saying something, because that work, I mean, I've written for Time Magazine, ESPN, and others. I was not half as vulnerable as I was coaching this team. So very good question.
Did you have any idea of what real leadership was, or even how to coach before stepping into this role? Did you go to people and ask them for advice, or
I did.
Yeah.
I'd read a lot of books on it. Not that I was reading them for that reason. I'd also keep in mind, I'm a sports writer, so I wrote a lot about coaches. I've been writing about leadership, teams that work, teams that don't work. You start figuring out what works and what doesn't. I did mention my great mentor, Al Clark at Culver Academies, who still has the record for the most wins in high school hockey in the United States. Produced a lot of pro players, college players, and so on. Great guy, Phi Beta Kappa math major, very smart. So I relied on him a lot. Red Berenson, the coach at the University of Michigan. Herb Brooks. He's the guy featured in Miracle movie with Kurt Russell. It's a hockey movie. So not sure how well I did down under, but yeah, exactly. He and I were friends due to my reporting. So I would call him for advice and he gave it to me. So I had these people to draw on, but what I really had was a great assistant coaches. And eventually what I had also was great seniors. I consulted with them all the time. So we'll call layers of leadership. If it's me versus the team, you're screwed. It's not going to work. It's got to be me with the coaches, with the seniors, we're leading everybody. Everybody's leading everybody. And that worked out very well. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't be afraid to ask for help. When I see a know-it-all coach, know-it-all leader, know-it-all business person, I think right away, that guy is headed for trouble. Okay? And he's going to find it because you're going to hit a bump. When you hit a bump, who's going to help you? Yeah. It's not already helping you. They're not going to help you now, probably.
Yeah, my grandfather used to say to me, if you don't ask, you don't get. So don't be afraid to ask. Doesn't matter what it is. There's no stupid question unless you don't ask one.
That's right. Grandfather was right. The old thing from restaurants. If you don't put in your order, you ain't going to get served.
Yep. There's another one, another good one. And then
there you go. Same stuff.
The idea of someone, when I first started doing this, I had a conversation with him, and he was one of the top cops here in New South Wales. And he actually said to me, he's like, Jay, everyone is a leader. The choice is whether or not you want to be a good one or bad one. So I like how you mentioned the layers of leadership there, because everyone on the team, whether you like it or not, is leading. But are you leading in a good way? So my question to you is, what do you think is a good leader, or a leader that actually shows up for people in the right kind of way?
I'll answer this question. Great question. And again, we had layers of leadership. I led, assistant coaches led, captains, seniors, and then on down. Really only the freshmen didn't know what they were doing. And everyone else was, I had to do, third year, I had to do very little. They all knew what they're doing. And they know whom to ask, not just me. I would flip it back with a very simple question for you, and I bet you can come up with this one very quickly. I bet your grandfather. Ask him when you're done here. I can answer this one very quickly. Who was your favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher was actually my basketball coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he would kind of play basketball coach and my volleyball coach. So both of them combined.
Great.
So
what were the names?
So one of them was Ryan Shea and the other one was Glenn Pine. So I still
Pine, solid names.
know them today. Yeah.
And were they also your teachers also, but only your coaches or also your teachers?
They're also my teachers. So Glenn Pine, my volleyball coach, was my science teacher. He helped me get through science. And then Ryan Shea was sort of like business and then math. I failed him in math miserably, but I did a little bit better on the basketball court, and same with volleyball. So yeah, they must have done something right.
Yeah. Well, then my next question, was either of those guys easy?
They were easygoing. Glenn Pine, he was sort of like, he expected the best from me. So he wanted to get the most out of me. So he was a bit, I wouldn't say rougher. He was just like more adamant that I gave my all every single time I stepped on the floor and in training. And then there was a couple of times where he saw that I wasn't giving my all, that he would like yell at me, but it wouldn't be like the negative yelling. It would be like, hey, exactly. Jay, get up there, go. You got it. He's like, I don't want to see that ever again. Go. Like, don't give me that attitude. Just, do it.
There you go. And let me guess also, they cared about you. Both of them.
They cared. Yeah. One hell of a lot. They cared. Yeah.
They knew your name, obviously. They'd stay after class or practice if they had to. You asked. Yeah. All this, and you still remember their names, of course. And your dad, by the way, or your grandfather, probably 40, 50 years older than you. I bet he can do the same thing. I've asked this question in Vancouver, Canada, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in Santiago, Chile, in English, Portuguese, and Espanol. And the answer is always the same. And people who are in their 70s, their 20s like you, it's two things. He or she pushed me and cared for me. Those are the two things. And when I was talking about this, about a hockey coach, a professional hockey coach here in the United States on the radio, the woman I was talking to said, oh, you need to balance those two things. No, you don't balance them. So 100% I expect more. 100%, I think you can do it. I'm on your side. I'll do everything I can to help you. So that's kind of it. The two philosophies you see these days tend to be what we call command and control, my way or the highway, do as I say, etc., which I was kind of raised on. My dad certainly was. Your grandfather, I know, was. Australians aren't messing around. I know that. So that's the old way. And the new way, of course, is casual Fridays and Taco Tuesdays and kombucha machines and beanbag chairs and all this. And the problem with these two systems is neither one works, because the first guy doesn't care about you and the second guy's got no expectations. So if you've got no expectations and you care about me, okay, you're a nice guy, but I'm not going to remember you. And I needed a few easy teachers. We all did, but I don't remember them. The other guys who are driving you hard but don't care about you, those are called jerks, because that wears off really fast. And what you need is, I care about you so much that I think you can do better. That's what I think you can do. And those are the guys who change your life. Those are the guys you remember the rest of your life. So leadership in a nutshell, you got to care and you got to push. And everything else, honestly, is details. Al Clark is a soft-spoken guy like me. He says about 5 words a day, 1/3 the pace. I've seen some great public speakers, some really bad ones. Al, before a game, would say, well, this would be a good one to win. Yeah, thanks. But he won 1,000 games, so I guess it worked. So those things are variables. What's not a variable is, I have to know you, care about you, and push you. Those are things that are non-negotiable. So in a leader in a nutshell, that's it. Everything else depends on your occupation, your business, your sport, and so on. And Mr. Shea and Mr. Pine, coach, I guess, you're not going to forget those guys. Trust me.
No. And I will say as well, adding on to those two men that sort of pushed me and got the best from me, I believe, there were other teachers in my vicinity that sort of really, really believed in me, because I did struggle academically, but they pushed me. They saw something even when I didn't see something in myself, and they just, came alongside of me. And I'm still friends with a lot of them today, believe it or not. So there you go. Like, it's just, if people really do show that they care for you, it leaves a lasting impression. And I believe that if my grandfather was still alive today, then he would actually agree with you as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. Makes a lot of sense, and it's very helpful for a lot of people.
Thank you. And by the way, your teachers love you for being in touch. It's one of the great rewards of teaching and coaching is when they stay in touch.
I've noticed that.
All you folks out there, think about your favorite teacher and give them a call if you can. They'll love you for it.
So speaking about changing the culture, so to speak, and how do we go about, if you have like a negative Nancy in the group, so to speak, how do we go about, or even the whole team, so say like that, how do we go about changing the culture so that we're all on the same page? We all want the same thing.
Few ways. First of all, when I took over, of course, they did not think they're going to win a game the next year either. We lost on a team that did not win a game. We lost our 3 leading scorers and the starting goalie. So it's not looking good, and we didn't add anybody. So that's a problem. So their hopes are down. But once I start telling them, look, once they start seeing we're doing things that we did not do the year before, you have to give them tangible reasons, not just, I think you can. You got to do that too. And after a while, it starts getting into their heads. But you have to show them something. Yeah. And in that case, I had to show them that, look, no one's worked harder than you in the state. No, here in high school hockey teams ever worked this hard. We know you better after 4 months of off-season workouts than you knew the previous coaches. But during the whole season, you told us this. Right? So we're already more unified. We're already working harder. So you have to believe that, this will create results. And you got to, then you have to have faith and you have to have confidence. So those things all figured in, but you have to exhibit these things yourself. And the big thing here is, if you don't believe, they never will. So you have to believe. From Herb Brooks, I'll get to this one later on, perhaps, the 1980 Olympic coach. He said before one of our big games, we're playing the equivalent of the Soviets. First year, of course, we win 7 games. That's the most improved team in school history. 7, 17, and 1. So that was good. Second year, we're 16, 8, and 2. So we're twice as good as that. And now we're playing the best team in the state in their building. This team beat us 13-2 my first year. This is not Australian rules football. Sorry, it's not American football. These are becoming ones. So 13-2. pretty damn ugly. I knew their fight song by the end of the game because they were playing it 13 at a time. So this is brutal. And so we're playing them again. A year and a half later, end of our second season at their place, regional final. But now we're pretty good. And I called up Herb Brooks, the guy who pulled off the miracle. And I said, okay, Herb, we're playing the Soviets. We're the Americans. These guys are damn good. What do I tell them? And he says, Johnny, with this Minnesota accent, Johnny, only tell them this. If you believe, anything is possible. If you don't believe, nothing is possible. But if you do believe, anything is possible. Does not guarantee victory, does not guarantee success, but not believing guarantees failure. It's a lottery ticket. Yeah. Faith is a lottery ticket. You got to believe. With that ticket, you have a chance to win. Without that ticket, you can never win. So I told them that, and they believed it by then, and I believed it. And man, we outplayed the team, believe it or not. We outshot them by a little bit. We lost 3-2 in their building, but their fans gave my guys a standing ovation. Their captain pulled my guy in. My captain and said, you guys should have won this game. That was respect. So by then we all believed. In the third year, we're 17-4-5, number 4 in the state, number 53 in the nation. So we passed 950 teams, basically 95% of the nation in 3 years. So that's how you build it as a team. Now, Negative Nancy, you already heard the Mike Henry story, how he turned to the Negative Nancy and said, hey, you play for Huron, and it's harder over here. Peer pressure, make it work for you. It's just me and the guys. That gets old fast. They get tired of it. They're going to start undermining you. But as senior, this is a high school of 2,000 students. Mike Henry's cool. He's really popular. The girls love him. Everyone knows him in school. And he's on a 9th grader telling him, hey, get your act together, and then you're one of us. Yeah. But if you don't get your act together, you're not one of us. Well, hell, what 9th grader does not want the coolest 12th grader out there looking out for him? So peer pressure is a great way to close that in. Once you have more than half of them on your side, then the peer pressure will start squeezing out the other ones, basically. And they'll either change their attitudes or they'll leave. I wanted them to change their attitudes, and they did. So there's a great line from an old New York Yankees manager, Casey Stengel, who said, when you're the manager at this level, the whole key is keeping the half of the players who hate you away from the half of the players who are undecided.
Oh, I love that.
And some days that's the best you can do.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned belief, because for a lot of people, believing that you can do something is half the battle. And
at least,
honestly,
at least that sounds.
Yeah, but the reason why they say that in the first place, or something is cliche, is because it's true to begin with. So, no matter how many times you say something, you got to make it stick. You got to make it go in there, which kind of is a cool segue into your part 5 of the changing the culture, which is towards reduce the rules and make them stick. What did you really mean by reducing the rules?
We had 2. The problem with government agencies, businesses, and everything else, got a million rules, and it's this, that, the other thing. Man, it's just tempting you to break them. I swear to God. I mean, here I am being this quasi-authoritarian coach. I'm not really authoritarian, but kind of old school, tough in some ways. Man, I hate rules, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to play police officer the whole time, wagging my finger, trying to stop them doing this and that. They didn't want that either. Of course, it gets old pretty fast. So we boiled it down to 2 things. That a friend of mine who played professional hockey, he told me his dad told him when he was a kid in Canada. He said, all you got to do is work hard and support your teammates. When I heard that, I thought, that's it. That's all I need. So, and everything else you can think about, being on time, dressing appropriately, blah, 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 blah. It all boils down to those 2 things, basically. So I said, only 2 rules. If you do those 2 things, I'm happy. And if you don't do those 2 things, even if we're winning, I'm not happy. So everything else didn't matter. So that first Trenton game I mentioned, when we lost 13-2, truly got, I went throwing their sticks around, throwing their gloves around. We'd won 3 games already. So we're pretty excited, but then old times again, getting your butt handed to you in a silver platter. That's what that was. And I come in and I said it. You can't lie to these guys. You can't fool them. I said, hey, stop. Stop throwing your stuff around. Sit down. I said, all right, I saw the same thing you saw. We just got our butts handed to us on a silver platter by the best team in the state. Yeah, I saw it too. I can't spin that. I said, but what's the first rule of Huron hockey? And they mumble it. And work hard. No. What's it really? We started yelling it back and forth. Okay, I said, okay, did you guys work hard the entire game? And they think about it, and then they think, well, actually, we did. That's right. You didn't slack off. You didn't coast to the bench. You didn't, even in the third period, down 13-2, you guys kept coming hard. I said, I respect that. Second rule, support your teammates. We started yelling that. Did you support your teammates the entire game? Did you get mad at the goalie for 13 goals? Did you get mad at the defense? Get mad at the offense for only scoring 2 goals? They think about it and they said, no, actually, we support each other after every goal. We high-fived after our 2 goals. And I said, okay, I asked 2 things of you before the season. You did both in spades. It will never be harder to follow those 2 rules than it was, and you did it. This is your finest hour right now. You walk out of this locker room with your head held high. Let me tell you something else. We're playing those bastards again. And it sure as hell will not be 13-2, I promise you. That's my job. And then, of course, it was 7-1, 6-2. And finally, it was 3-2 when we played them at their place in the playoffs. Next year, third year, 2 one-goal games. And finally, our 4th year, we beat them 4-3 at their place for the first time in 20 years, I think. But that's how we boil it down. I didn't want to play rule guy. I didn't want to play punishment guy. I don't believe in punishments, believe it or not. I believe in accountability. I believe in consequences. I don't believe in punishment. I'm never trying to embarrass you. I don't care about that. The bus leaves at 5 o'clock because that's when the damn bus leaves. When the airplane leaves on time from Sydney or New South Wales or wherever you're going, right? It's not trying to punish you or make you feel stupid. That's when the plane leaves. That's all it is. And my bus leaves at 5 o'clock. And I told you the bus leaves at 5 o'clock. And I don't care if you're the starting goalie, the leading scorer, or anybody else. And we left them all in the parking lot at some point or other. The bus leaves at 5 o'clock. That's part of work hard, support your teammates. So once you get that down, a lot of things start going in the right direction. And then they want to do these things themselves. The other thing Al Clark told me is, make it special by making it hard. Once they believe that they had to do something that not very many people would do to be on the team, they feel special about being on that team. And they, with a little guidance, will start enforcing their own culture. So the second year, it's the seniors who told the freshmen what to do. I didn't have to tell them. That's what we wanted, is who we are at this point. And punishment's a waste of time. Like I said, it's consequences, yes. Punishment, no. So these are the 2 philosophies. When you follow them, we're okay. And also, it allows you to define yourself. So even though we got our asses handed to us 13-2, all right, we don't feel like losers. We're winners based on our 2 rules. That's all that matters. We define ourselves. You don't tell us who we are. We tell ourselves who we are. And that's a vital skill. Anybody succeeds at anything, sooner or later has to do that. Has got to define yourself. And these guys did that. And the other point along those lines is you've got to be patient with results if you're a leader, but not patient with behaviors. You mentioned coaches Pine and Shea, also teachers. If the team is new and this and that, okay, it's going to be a little rough at first, whether it's basketball or soccer or whatever. That's got to come. 13-2, I got to accept it. We have to get better. But showing up on time, I don't accept that. We control that. Dressing appropriately, we control that. All this stuff. So those things you hammer home right away. And after a while, they start doing it themselves. And that's when it gets fun.
I think it's also, as well, building respect. So you are showing kids how they can respect you more by following your 2 rules. And if they don't respect those 2 rules, then you're not punishing them. It's their choice in the first place not to respect them. So the consequences follow along. So that's what I've learned with very similar, like growing up. Like I always question rules. Like why are they here in the first place? Yeah. Like it's always question. Never be afraid to question them. And if they don't make sense, then why should you follow them? And secondly, this is one of the things that I like, and what I've been looking at here in Sydney, Australia currently. If they're not leading from the front, if they're not actually following those rules for themselves, why should we follow them to begin with? So there. It's and
honestly, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Everything we're talking about, Jay, is simple. None of it's easy, but it's all simple, and it should be simple. And as far as my 2 rules go, the whole thing was, okay, do you not understand the 2 rules? They're too complicated? All right. Can you tell me they don't matter? Can you tell me that working hard is not a key to success, or, being supporting your teammates? That's not important either. You tell me you would not want to play on a team like that? that is working hard and does support you, you want to do all those things. And you tell me that this is in someone else's control. No, it's not the referees, the puck bouncing, the weather, the opponents. We can decide to do these two things every single day, no matter what's going on. Yeah. And as long as we're doing that, we're okay. But that's exactly it. It's about respect. Yeah. Great line from Bull Durham, the old movie with Kevin Costner, American Baseball.
Yeah.
When the manager says to the crazy pitcher, he said, you don't respect yourself, that's your problem. But you don't respect the game, and that's my problem. And that's how I felt. That look, you don't show up at 5 o'clock for the bus. That's your problem. I'll find another player. But you know what? It's bothersome. When do you start respecting yourself enough to show up on time? Yeah. Because you worked hard all summer, worked hard all fall, and now you're going to throw it away because you stopped at McDonald's on the way here. That's going to be more important to you. It's crazy. You're selling yourself short. When you frame it that way, behavior changes.
Yeah, so true. How long were you the coach of this team?
4 years.
4 years. And how many wins did you have during that period of time?
We had 54 wins. The last 3 years are the three winningest years in 40-some years of Huron hockey. Going. So, and my captain, my players, by the way, have done great since one is a higher up at the Department of Homeland Security, which is an important job. One's a vice president of an IT staffing firm and $2.5 billion firm in Atlanta, Georgia. Lawyers, doctors, and they weren't all great students in high school either, but they've gotten better and done quite well. But those 4 years made an impact on me and on them.
Yeah, you've got in the back of your book all the players' names and the coaches as well, which I thought was just like, that's honorable. Like, I haven't seen that. Usually people like being kept anonymous, but I like how you did that. It just shows you're honoring them too. So
I had to beg a little bit. The publisher said, they want the books as small as you can get them, and paper costs money and blah, blah, blah. I got 54 players. I got to list them. I want every player to see his name in this book. I'm glad you picked up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I like picking up on things because I read a lot of books. And clearly. I love yes, I love the sports ones in particular. Like I was saying in the very beginning, those underdog stories. And what you did different, I noticed you did a lot of things different in this book to begin with, but at the very end, you honored those players by actually naming them. And yeah, if I was one of those players, I'd be like, hand on my heart, thank you. Like that's something else, like that's special to me and something that I can like share with my hopefully future kids and all that stuff, that my name was actually in the book and I'm part of this story. So yeah, anyway, that's how I looked at it. Yeah.
I love hearing that. Thank you very much. We have a barbecue every summer at my place. Now my wife and my kids' place. I got married late and had a kid even later, but here you go. They all come. We had 50 people over last time. They all come back. It's great. We feed them. We have beer and pop and everything else there. And then their kid, I got a 6-year-old kid, despite being 57. And so their kids are older than my kids. They're 35, 36. They get, 7, 8, 10-year-old kids. So they come in here, Jay, and they give me parenting advice, and I have to take it. Hey, and I say this unabashedly, I love those guys. I loved them then, still love them, and I hope it comes across in the book.
Well, I can't wait to actually officially finish the book. I've skimmed through most of it, so I've loved what I've read so far. So where can people get a copy of this book? I've got a couple more questions for you, but if that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, where can they get the book? I believe it's out September 7th.
September 7th is out. You can pre-order it now. And those things help, by the way, so thanks. Pre-order sales are going pretty well. Amazon is probably the easiest way in Australia, but hopefully some bookstores down there will stock it as well. I do recall in Melbourne, when I was down there, I saw a couple of my books in a stack at a bookstore. I said, hell yeah, I got to Melbourne, Australia. But Amazon is probably going to be the easiest way. And a little fun fact, you might have seen Mighty Ducks, the movie.
Yes.
There are 3 of those movies, actually. But the screenwriter there, Jim Bernstein, he and I are working on the screenplay for this, just called The Rats. And his great line about that is, if a sports movie is about sports, it sucks. So he's right. I mean, what is Rocky? Rocky's, it's a boxing movie. It's an underdog story. It's David and Goliath. That's the oldest story around. Star Wars is not about outer space. It's, it's more basic than that. And this is not about hockey. This is about leadership, about people, conflicts, and caring about each other, I think. As corny as that sounds.
I love all that. And I'll make sure that this book goes wild. I can already see that it's going to go crazy anyway. So good to hear. It's been endorsed by a number of incredible people. One of them, the very first one, is Susan Kane. For those people that don't know who she is, she's the bestseller of the book Quiet, and a number of other coaches and best-selling authors. So you got a very good backing behind you. You got me also backing you as well. Love this message. John, my two final questions for you. Really, really enjoy this conversation, by the way.
Thank you.
What do you love the most about yourself and your story?
Potentially awkward question. I'd rather not answer that one probably, but hey, we're on the spot here. That I put my whole heart into what I do. Yeah. That whatever I'm doing, I go full blast. And as a rule, as you pointed out about hypocrisy, if you're asking your people to work and you're not working, they know it. And they'll never work harder than you do. So I put my whole heart into what I do. And the second question was?
This is my last. What do you love about yourself and your story? Sorry.
My story. Mean the book or my life story?
Your life story.
I don't give up. I've enjoyed beating the odds many times in the past. My one superpower, Jay, is that I'm always underestimated. I should be called Underestimation Man. That's
a superpower.
That's my lot in life, but I've come to embrace it.
I love that. I can relate to the never giving up side of things. I mean, even starting this, I was told that I was crazy, and I actually turned down a high-paying job to go and do this, where I could have been making a lot of money, and I would have done really, really well at it. But I chose to align myself with my calling, with my purpose, with what I believed in, and just giving myself a go. And I kind of surprised myself, to be honest. And all the people that have believed in me, such as yourself, John, along the way to give me a chance to unbox your story and get to ask these questions. I don't regret any decision that I made. And I love saying, I have this, it was my all-time favorite saying, be persistent to remain consistent are the things that you want. So I don't give up, and I'm persistent as heck, and I won't ever stop. So
I tell you what, it's already working for you. But you know what? All my friends, including me, who've jumped off the cliff, left a good job, walked out of law school, whatever, they almost always succeed because wimps don't do that. And you jump off the cliff, guess what? You start beating your wings as fast as you can. So I want to bet on that guy. I'll take that guy. The path of least resistance does not create much.
And I love how you mentioned the wings there, because my audience will know that I like to call myself the eagle. So I have the path of an eagle. And I love saying that allow failures or allow the losses to give you the wind to make you soar higher than you ever did before. That's my philosophy in life. So I just wanted to say that before I ask you the final question. This is my all-time favorite question, John. I ask everyone at the end of my conversations, but it's a hypothetical one. So I want you to imagine with me for a moment that you've been able to reach the age of 100. All your friends and your family have decided to put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how in the world they got it all. We'll call it magic for the sake of argument. But they've been able to get it and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
That's pretty cool. I got to say that actually the hockey parents and players had a surprise party for me when I stepped down. They kind of did that when I turned 40, actually, but 40 ain't 100. So, but that was a wonderful night, to say the least. A lot of fun. Well, it would probably include a lot of profanity because I'm pretty bad that way. Can't lie. It's not misogynistic. It's not homophobic. It's not directed at anybody, but it gets a little salty here and there. But anyway, little PG. I would hope it would show the ability to fight through things, the ability to look at long odds and keep going, the ability to share credit, but yet take blame, and ultimately compassion for others. The only reason to coach is because you care about other people. And if you don't, they know it already, and it's not going to work. So I mean, it's here I go again. As corny as this sounds, if you don't love your people, it's not going to work. And I love them. And I hope for all the yelling and barking and the occasional profanity and all the rest, I hope the love for people I work with always comes through.
Perfect send-off message. John Bacon, thank you so much for your time today, for showing up in the world and for writing this book, Let Them Lead. Thank you so much for coming on the Storybox podcast.
Jay, my pleasure. You can find out more at letthemleadbybacon.com.